now we're going to have a look at verbs. Now, before we can actually do any coding, we need to create a environment, and I'm just going to call it something like verbs demo. I'm going to not mess around changing the coded file name or anything like that. We'll keep it the same. Now, declaring a verb is very easy, but before declaring a verb, you've got to understand a few things. You can have a verb in either a mob, an object, or a turf. Now, mobs, objects and turfs, well, we're going to look at them in more detail later on, but very briefly, a mob is a movable atom, basically. It's a person on the screen, a character that you interact with, NPC, a non-playable character, things like that. That is a mob. Now, to declare a mob is actually very, very simple. All we use is three little letters, M-O-B, mob. Done. Now we press the enter key. Now this is important. After pressing the enter key, you press the tab key. Right. Now, as you can see, there is two left arrows just there. Now, if you press Control and the T on the keyboard, I've had them on, so now they've gone off. If I press it again, they'll go on. Now, tabbing, or indenting as it's called, is extremely important in Byond. So, we've tabbed across. What does that mean? It means that every line of code now, which is tabbed across by 1, will belong to mob. So if I use the command verb, which goes blue, and then do a new line, it means that all the verbs will belong to mob. In fact, now I have to press the tab key again, because the verbs, the lines of code that I now create will belong to the verb, and then the verb will belong to the mob. So I'm going to create a verb, and I'm going to call it test. Notice how it's a capital T. I'm only telling you that because capitals, Byond is cap sensitive. If I change a verb and put capital V, it won't go blue because we're looking at a cap sensitive programming language. So test. Now, because it's a verb, we put in an open and close bracket. Okay, new line. Now we're tabbing across again. Why? Because this code now belongs to test, and it's going to be very, very simple. We're going to go src. Now the command src is the current object or mob, or it's the current thing that you've selected. In this case, it's the mob. Now, a verb, but whenever you create a verb, whatever the verb name, in this case test, that will appear on the screen when we run the project. And then when you click on it, you click on test. Now, because you're clicking on test, you are src. Okay. Now I know it's a bit complicated at the moment, but you will get the hang of it. I mean, for simplicity, I'm actually going to use user. Now, user is you, the user. Okay. So then we're going to use two left arrows. Now, what this means is, it's like user becomes in effect, but we're actually going to output some data on the screen. And to do that, we go user, two left arrows, and then double speech marks. And then inside two pairs of double speech marks, what we do is we just type in something like hello, and that will actually output hello on the screen. So what's happening? Well, verb is tabbed across, so indented, so it belongs to the mob. Test is indented again and belongs to verb, and user, two left arrows hello, is indented again and belongs to the test verb. I'm actually just going to create another verb to explain this. See how it's automatically tabbed me across? Well, I don't want that. I want to press the backspace, so I'm not tabbed across anymore. I'm going to go, test 2, open and close bracket, new line, and then I'm going to tab across again. So now this code is going to belong to test 2. User, I'm going to output, this is test 2. Do you understand? Okay. I don't really need that bit there. I can get rid of it. So as you can see, indentation is very important because that's how you know what belongs to what. Now I'm actually going to compile the project by pressing Ctrl and K. Now look down here. It says 0 errors, 0 warnings. The code is fine. Now I'm going to press Ctrl and R, and that runs the project, as you can see. So now we have a project which is run, and it's got two commands. See, we click on test, here it outputs hello. Click on test 2, it says this is a test. This is test 2. Do you understand? Okay. So that is the basics of verbs. But there's quite a lot of things we've covered. You see, we had a brief look at SRC, but don't worry about that. Mainly we're going to use the user command until you actually understand what we're going to look at, and then we'll jump to the SRC. We've looked at indentation and how important it is to indent, okay? And that will be enough for this tutorial.